What careers are a turnoff for a serious relationship? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. I think it'd be difficult for me to date a person in the bar scene. I work a standard 8 to 5. My free time to do anything fun is weekends. They work like 6 to on weekends and are pretty flexible midweek, but even then, will work a lot of weekday nights and even spend their free time at their bar or their friends' bars. It's a lifestyle I just can't live, even when I really have strong feelings for someone. Story 2. I was working a bar job when I met a girl who worked at a bank with regular 9 to 5 hours. We hit it off, but the mismatch in schedules was horrible. Realized pretty quickly I had a choice to make. Made the jump to an office job and never looked back. Coming up on 20 years married now. No way would we still be together if I'd stayed in hospitality. Story 3. I signed on with a temp agency and took whatever gigs I could get through them. I'll be honest, it wasn't easy at first, as a lot of it was short-term and kind of menial work. But eventually I built up enough experience to get a permanent, full-time job at a finance company. That was an entry-level position, but I had my foot in the door. Once I'd punched the clock in that job for a year or so, I started applying for more senior roles, and it wasn't long before I had the beginnings of something resembling a career. Still with the same company. I'm not super senior or mega influential or anything, but my current job is perfectly bearable, and it pays enough that I've been able to build a reasonably comfortable life with my wife and kids. Story 4. Just anyone that is on a different shift/schedule than you is difficult. Only seeing each other one day a week, even when living together. Not impossible, but a turnoff for sure. As superficial as it seems, it's a killer. I worked the night shift, 5 to 2 a.m., and my wife worked a desk job for about a year. During that year, we were only able to see each other for a few hours on the weekends. I get home, she is asleep. I wake up, and she is at work. She comes home, I'm at work. I would stay up much later than I should just so I could get a half hour to talk to her before she had to leave. We lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, but I would go days without hearing her voice. Luckily, we are on the same schedule now, thank God. But I don't know how you are supposed to cultivate a thriving relationship with someone that you literally never see. Story 5. Long-haul trucking or constant travel jobs. It works in very, very specific cases. I have a buddy who does it. Drives 4 months non-stop out of state. Then 4 months short-term coming home every other week, and then 4 months off. His wife has several mental health conditions that cause her to want to be alone for long periods of time. Conveniently, around 4 months is the magic number. Then warms up to being around her husband, till eventually she needs to be alone again. Have been together 15 years now, trucking the last 10, and it's what saved the marriage. EDIT. To answer the same question a dozen times. No, she does not have a side guy. Story 6. A consultant I worked with for over 5 years retired. 6 months later, he was back because his wife couldn't stand having him home all the time. They got used to him traveling a ton, and he had trouble turning off his problem-solving mode at home. He was attempting to optimize his wife's processes of doing chores. Both of his daughters went into the same consulting field, started their own firm, and hired their dad. I began to think the mom is an introvert and just wanted to get everyone out of the house. Finally, the house stays clean. Story 7. Been OT our trucking the past year, and my family still tells me to get a girlfriend all the time. I did this job for 3.5 years after the 2008 recession. Worked well for me as a single guy. Ironically, when I was a Mormon, I went to one of the BYUs and didn't find anybody I felt like marrying, which for a Mormon is a pretty epic dating failure. I ended up doing online dating while I drove a truck, and it turned out to be really convenient for opening up the field. I could meet up with anyone almost anywhere in the whole country. Went on about 8 dates before I met the one who worked for me and the feelings were mutual. Admittedly, I quit driving just before we settled down. Got a job in it. We've been married 13 years and have 3 kids now. But yeah, that job would suck ass if I still had to do it with a family. Story 8. Film and TIV workers. Brutal on families and partners. High-end VFX for Marvel, Disney, or the like. Prestige projects that require 50 to 70 hours to deliver whatever the client wants. Terrible for family, and the higher you go, the more the time demands. 18 years old me would have been psyched to work on what I'm working on now, but man, the reality is brutal. Just got off a job where VFX was pushed to the absolute limit, abused and pressured in every way, both in timeline, scope, and budget, delivered on every ask and then some. And the client is walking away saying, "We'll never hire those lazy again." As someone who works in the industry, this is absolutely true. I'm lucky to have a steady 9 to 5 with bosses who really value family time. But so many of my friends have no stability at all, work insane hours, are constantly worried about what their next job is going to be, etc. It's too much and makes having families fucking impossible. I really don't know how they handle it. Story 9. Pilots and flight attendants. Irregular hours and long periods away from home can make maintaining a stable relationship challenging. Unfortunately, it's true, being a flight attendant can be a lonely existence, speaking as one. Yes, turnaround trips are a thing, going and coming back the same day. But there's a limited number of them, and it depends on your seniority as well as where you're based. I feel it applies less to pilots and flight attendants than to truckers. Flying crew can return within 24 hours or even same day on most days. It's an irregular schedule for sure, but you're not away from home for that long. Now truckers can be gone 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Story 10. Actor. No money. On the off chance that they do make money, it's because they're famous, which sucks for you. There's a small sliver of actors in between who work steadily and make a decent living, but aren't super recognizable. Maybe they're an that guy who you may kind of remember from something, but would never know their name. But the vast majority aren't making a living in acting. My fiancé and I are both actors. We wouldn't have any money if it weren't for the fact that we both have freelance side gigs. We also wouldn't work if we weren't decent people. My ex is also an actor. He isn't famous, but has a lot of work and a side gig. It sucked so hard, I can't even describe it. He was stingy, he was greedy, he felt superior to everyone else, and was always critical of me and my work, even if I didn't ask him. He also was emotionally unavailable because of his massive ego. Overall, I do not recommend dating an actor unless 1. You're also an actor too. They are a decent person and so are you. 3. You both have the same level of fame. Story 11. Influencer. This for me. I had a college friend turn into an influencer. He still has his regular job, but his whole dive into influencing feeds into his pretty bad narcissistic tendencies. He's pretty judgy, never satisfied, condescending, and always seemingly not enjoying the moment because he wants to capture things on film. It's exhausting, and after 2 to 3 toxic blowups with him, I cut him off for now. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a single real friend in his life anymore and deals with depression. I realized I'm no longer interested in pandering to his needs and wants. Story 12. Surprise, I haven't seen this one yet. Academia. You need to support them through till 10 years of graduate and postgraduate studies, which can be tough both financially. They'll have no savings to contribute when you start a family, even if they live extremely frugally, and emotionally. It's a very competitive field, and many PTs suffer from anxiety and depression. It's almost like the path to becoming a doctor, except at the end of it, they most likely won't have a job, and if they do, it won't pay much, depends on department. But most likely a union worker with no experience would make more. But let's say they're so lucky to get this poorly paid, highly coveted job. Then, cue another 10 years of high pressure and mental breakdowns as they strive to get tenure. Oh yeah, did I mention you have no say in where you'll live or raise your family? Hopefully your own career isn't location dependent. And if they land in a HCOL area and your job doesn't make bank, you might need to get a side hustle to make ends meet. The light at the end of the tunnel is that if they're lucky, they'll get tenure in their mid-40s and have more flexibility in their schedule and intellectual pursuits than 99% of jobs. Love that for them. Now you can travel as a family during the summer vacation or, work more to save up for the kids' college. This last part can be avoided though if you force your kids to go to the same school where your partner teaches. I'm sure that they'll love that. Basically, don't marry someone striving to become an academic unless you make a lot of money and can work remotely. Story 13. I'm married to someone trying to secure a tenure track position. It's honestly a nightmare trying to figure out how to have a career while following my spouse through the endless pursuit of an academic career. His jobs are so unstable and difficult to attain. So many universities are located in small towns without much of a job market. Most jobs are short-term contract positions. Unless you work 100% remotely and make good money, you won't have a chance at a career unless your spouse gives up theirs. Academia is not compatible with having a mentally healthy/fulfilled spouse most of the time. Also, the work tends to follow professors home. Students are so needy and email at all hours of the night. Grad students under the supervision of my spouse are even more demanding of his time. Conferences take him away from home. When he is home, he spends so much time working. Lastly, academia attracts a lot of people with narcissistic traits, poor social skills, and shitty boundaries. I've known too many professors who have questionable boundaries with students who use the excuse, "I'm mentoring young, smart, attractive people all day. How could I not fantasize about them?" The shit they do wouldn't fly at the places I work. Story 14. Anyone who is a CEO of a company you've never heard of. Usually it's their own company that makes no money so they could put something on their LinkedIn profile. I think this is a bit harsh. Plenty of solid, successful companies that you haven't heard and won't ever hear of. And all of those started as a couple of founders who called themselves chiefs before they made any money. That is simply part of the process. I think you're more adverse to the attitude of overselling oneself, which I wholeheartedly agree with. But this goes beyond the CEO on LinkedIn. I see it more in shift leads and supervisors who oversell their status, to be honest. But honestly, that's a really crap take. The red flag could be that they're very busy, but creating their own company just for LinkedIn. If you're not in the business, you have no idea how many startups are great without being global. I did an internship to a small company who made an app that helped doctors to follow patients' physical and mental health. Basically, the patient could chat every day with the bot, and it extracted the feeling of the person. That's a wonderful idea, but since the company is business to business, most people have never heard of it. Next example, I worked at SAP. If you're in the IT world, you know what it is. If not, you probably never heard of them, while it's a company basically as important as Microsoft. Story 15. Maybe an unpopular opinion, and this may be just from my experience. I'm a straight woman in NYC, but 100% teachers. In the past, I've been on dates with a few and dated one for a couple months. The vibe has ultimately always been the same. Simultaneously thinking they're automatically better and smarter, while also being deeply insecure about their income, but still thinking their job is the most important one imaginable, no matter what, and often talking down to others. Lowlights from dating teachers have included: one guy spent the first and last date saying how much he and his fellow teachers hated one student and were excited about the prospect of keeping him from college and bragging about his degrees/success. While I also bragging about a recent time he saved $5 on something. Another kept trying to teach me about TV advertising. Aka, the field asterisk I asterisk work in and know extremely well. One guy was just plain creepy, overly sexualizing me, constantly staring at my ass and licking his lips while quoting random poems to try to impress me. And obnoxious in many ways, but mainly he'd swear up and down how awesome he thought it was that I'm career-driven, successful in my field, etc., and then repeatedly judged how I spent money, like saying I must not know how to clean, because I hire a monthly housekeeper for deep cleanings. I've observed the same from friends who have dated teachers. Again, maybe it's NYC, maybe it's just the ones I've encountered, but this has been my consistent experience nonetheless. Never, ever again. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.